Hey everybody.
Fat Red Finds here.
I'm Mary Beth.
And I'm Laura.
And welcome to Tales from the Put-Out Closet.
Welcome back.
This is going to be a series.
I'm excited about what's coming up.
Are you? You're like tongue-tied.
I'm so sorry, yes.
All right.
That's how excited I am, right?
I can't stand it. Okay, so this is going to be like episodic.
Ooh, episodic.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we have in front of us here Frankenstein by Mary Shelley.
It's ambitious.
Have you ever read it?
I haven't, actually.
I've also not read it. Have you seen the movie?
I really don't think I've actually seen the movie. I mean, I've just seen different kinds of, adaptations from it, but I've not seen the movie where he says, "It's alive."
I also don't think I've seen the movie. I think I've maybe seen parts of it, but I don't think I've sat down and actually paid attention to the whole movie. So this is going to be fun.
Yeah, I like it.
First of all, it's a masterpiece.
Yes.
Second of all, it is a horror book written by a woman in a time when that just didn't happen.
Correct.
And it's something we've never read before.
Yeah, do you realize that she was 18 years old when she wrote this?
Right.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. That's insane.
Nuts.
I'm excited. Okay, so we're going to do this hopefully kind of by chapters. There are some letters at the beginning of this book that are kind of like a preamble, so to speak. Right?
Right.
So we have to read the letters first, and then we're going to maybe see if we can get to chapter 1 today. If not, we'll do that next week.
Yeah, the letters are just kind of a flash forward. So, it's kind of, it's just setting the scene for Dr. Frankenstein to tell the story.
Gotcha.
And of course, I guess it goes without saying, most people know this, but I feel like we should just say that Frankenstein is not the monster.
Yes, correct. It's Frankenstein's monster.
Right.
Dr.
Frankenstein
the doctor. Yeah.
is the Frankenstein.
Yeah, I feel like that's a common misconception.
Yes.
But that's fine. Also, we want to say that we have not asked for permission to read this book because it is in the public domain. So this is a public domain book, as are many works of historic literature. So we feel comfortable that we're reading this.
This is way back in the 1800s.
Yes, that we're under our legal rights to do this and to have fun, and we hope you enjoy this. Shall we start?
Let's do it.
Okay, I'm going to let you begin.
Oh, really? I'm going to get to start.
And we've got this awesome cover on this book. If you're listening to the podcast not on YouTube, you can't see the cover, but the cover is really awesome. And also, if you are listening to the podcast not on YouTube, welcome. We're really glad that you're here. We would love for you to come over to our YouTube channel, Fatbird Finds, and subscribe to our channel. That would be fantastic. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, welcome as always. And make sure you leave us a comment. Let us know if you're enjoying this.
That's right. And also, the subtitle to the book is The Modern Prometheus, right? Did you know that?
I didn't.
So yeah, see that's the subtitle to the book. So it's based on that story, that Greek mythology story. Do you know it?
I don't.
Well, I'm
not good at Greek mythology.
Me either, but I sort of studied a little bit just so that we would know.
You were prepared.
Well, right?
I'm impressed.
Is that impressive?
Very.
So, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not trying to get the story exactly right, but in general, Prometheus has, I think the story goes that God creates Adam and Eve or creates mankind, and they're not smart. And Prometheus kind of feels bad for them, and he gets fire and gives them fire because, they have to have fire to survive.
Oh.
And he gets punished by maybe the other gods. I don't know who exactly he gets punished by. But yeah, he takes one for the team to try to
Okay.
to help,
he wasn't supposed to do that.
help mankind.
Okay.
No, he was not.
All right.
So there's lots of symbolism in the book.
Cool.
Around
Well, thanks
that.
for telling me that. I wouldn't have known. All right, letter 1. I'm excited.
Okay. Letter 1 to Mrs. Seville, England, St. Petersburg, December 11th, 17 blank, it says. So I guess they don't know exactly what year this was.
Okay.
You will rejoice to hear that no disaster has accompanied the commencement of an enterprise which you have regarded with such evil forebodings. I arrived here yesterday, and my first task is to assure my dear sister of my welfare and increasing confidence in the success of my undertaking. Wow, so formal, right?
Yeah, right? Do you think that people really used to speak that way or just write that way?
I don't know. I mean, I think they sort of spoke that way, too.
That's fantastic.
I'm already far north of London, and as I walk in the streets of Petersburg, I feel a cold northern breeze play upon my cheeks, which braces my nerves and fills me with delight. Do you understand this feeling? This breeze, which has traveled from the regions towards which I'm advancing, gives me a foretaste of those icy climes. Inspirited by this wind of promise, my daydreams become more fervent and vivid. I try in vain to be persuaded that the pole is the seat of frost and desolation. It ever presents itself to my imagination as the region of beauty and delight.
Wow.
So he's going to the North Pole, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah.
I want to go to the North Pole.
Yeah, me too. Well, what an undertaking for 1700 something.
Right?
There, Margaret, the sun is forever visible, its broad disk just skirting the horizon and diffusing a perpetual splendor. There, for with your leave, my sister, I will put some trust in proceeding navigators. There, snow and frost are banished, and sailing over a calm sea, we may be wafted to a land surpassing in wonders and in beauty every region hitherto discovered on the habitable globe.
Okay, so he's writing a letter to his sister.
Yes.
And if we didn't say so, we're reading Frankenstein as kind of a lead into the Halloween season. So to be kind of in the spooky spirit.
It's very, I think the literary style is romantic, not,
right.
Not love romantic, the romantic period, where they
exactly
are very descriptive. Everything's really super emotional, supernatural. I mean, not supernatural, but, they refer to nature and describe all of that kind of stuff. And it's also gothic.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be really scary.
I'm excited. I can't stand it.
Okay, let's see. In productions and features may be without example, as the phenomena of the heavenly bodies undoubtedly are in those undiscovered solitudes. What may not be expected in a country of eternal light? I may there discover the wondrous power which attracts the needle, and may regulate 1,000 celestial observations that require only this voyage to render their seeming eccentricities consistent forever. I shall satiate my ardent curiosity with the sight of a part of the world never before visited, and may tread a land never before imprinted by the foot of man.
Gosh.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I want to start speaking this way.
Right? And she's 18 speaking in this voice.
When I was 18, I didn't even know what was what.
Could barely write a book report, right?
Right.
Like, let's write the book.
Yeah.
I mean, but she was married already. Percy Shelley was her husband. This is the author we're talking about. And they had already lost a child. So, I mean, I guess she has a lot of life experience that she could draw from, even at 18. But my goodness. Okay. These are my enticements, and they are sufficient to conquer all fear of danger or death, and to induce me to commence this laborious voyage with the joy of a child, feels when he embarks in a little boat with his holiday mates on an expedition of discovery up his native river. But supposing all these conjectures to be false, you cannot contest the inestimable benefit which I shall confer on all mankind to the last generation by discovering a passage near the pole to those countries, to reach which at present so many months are requisite, or by ascertaining the secret of the magnet, which, if at all possible, can only be effected by an undertaking such as mine.
What is happening?
He is just going on and on about how excited he is to go to the North Pole.
Is he talking about a compass when he's like the secret of the magnet?
Well, I think I think it's supposed to be some sort of something to do with that. When you go to the North Pole.
What happens to your compass when you're on the North Pole?
I don't know.
Does it just spin around?
That's a good question. I wish I'd have looked that up before, but I didn't even know to ask that question. These reflections have dispelled the agitation with which I began my letter. Oh, he was mad when he started the letter. Okay. And I feel my heart glow with an enthusiasm which elevates me to heaven, for nothing contributes so much to tranquilize the mind as a steady purpose, a point on which the soul may fix its intellectual eye. This expedition has been the favorite dream of my early years. I have read with ardor the accounts of the various voyages which have been made in the prospect of arriving at the North Pacific Ocean through the seas which surround the pole. You may remember that a history of all the voyages made for purposes of discovery composed the whole of our good Uncle Thomas's library. My education was neglected, yet I was passionately fond of reading. These volumes were my study day and night, and my familiarity with them increased that regret which I had felt as a child on learning that my father's dying injunction had forbidden my uncle to allow me to embark in a seafaring life. So he neglected all of his studies, read all these books about doing this. So it's like his life stream or whatever.
Yeah.
These visions faded when I perused, for the first time, those poets whose effusions entranced my soul and lifted it to heaven. I also became a poet, and for 1 year lived in a paradise of my own creation. I imagined that I also might obtain a niche in the temple where the names of Homer and Shakespeare are consecrated. You are well acquainted with my failure and how heavily I bore the disappointment. But just at that time, I inherited the fortune of my cousin, and my thoughts were turned into the channel of their earlier bent. So he wanted to write.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's a lofty goal to be as good as Shakespeare.
Yeah, and Homer. Good grief.
So he didn't succeed at that. Got some sort of fortune.
But it's okay that he didn't succeed because now he's rich, apparently.
Yeah. And now he can go,
he can do what he wants.
Chase his dreams on this boat, which, I mean, can you imagine that? Probably takes years.
I don't know.
To try to sail to the North Pole.
I don't know how long that
takes. At least months, right?
I don't know, man.
Oh, here we go. 6 years have passed.
6 years?
Since I resolved on my present undertaking. I can even now remember the hour from which I dedicated myself to this great enterprise. I commenced by injuring my body to hardship. I accompanied the whale fishers on several expeditions to the North Sea. I voluntarily endured cold, famine, thirst, and want of sleep. I often worked harder than the common sailors during the day and devoted my nights to the study of mathematics, the theory of medicine, and those branches of physical science from which a naval adventurer might derive the greatest practical advantage.
Well, hell, if you're on a boat for 6 years, you can pretty much just teach yourself anything.
Right? Twice I actually hired myself as an undermate in a Greenland whaler and acquitted myself to admiration. I must own I felt a little proud when my captain offered me the second dignity in the vessel and entreated me to remain with the greatest earnestness. So valuable did he consider my services.
Time out. Are we to believe that he's actually been on this boat for 6 years, or he's just been trying to get where he is now for 6 years?
Yeah, now that we've read that part right there, that sounded like he was preparing for 6 years. I'm not sure that he's been on the boat that long.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Still.
So now he's all proud of himself because he was a good, second in command on this guy's boat.
And he hired himself, didn't he say?
That's what he said. And now, dear Margaret, do I not deserve to accomplish some great purpose? My life might have been passed in ease and luxury, but I preferred glory to every enticement that wealth placed in my path. Oh, that some encouraging voice would answer in the affirmative.
How do you post a letter when you're on the sea?
Right? He's arrived somewhere, though.
I guess.
Yeah. My courage and my resolution is firm, but my hopes fluctuate and my spirits are often depressed. I am about to proceed on a long and difficult voyage, the emergencies of which will demand all my fortitude. I am required not only to raise the spirits of others, but sometimes to sustain my own when theirs are failing. This is the most favorable period for traveling in Russia. They fly quickly over the snow in their sledges. The motion is pleasant and, in my opinion, far more agreeable than that of an English stagecoach. So sledge is like a sled.
Right.
Yeah. The cold is not excessive if you are wrapped in furs, a dress which I have already adopted, for there is a great difference between walking the deck and remaining seated motionless for hours when no exercise prevents the blood from actually freezing in your veins.
True.
I have no ambition to lose my life on the post road between St. Petersburg and Archangel. I shall depart for the latter town in a fortnight or 3 weeks, and my intention is to hire a ship there, which can easily be done by paying the insurance for the owner, and to engage as many sailors as I think necessary among those who are accustomed to the whale fishing. I do not intend to sail until the month of June. And when shall I return? Oh, dear sister, how can I answer this question? If I succeed, many, many months, perhaps years, will pass before you and I may meet again.
Goodness.
If I fail, you will see me again soon, or never.
Oh my God.
Farewell, my dear, excellent Margaret. Heaven shower down blessings on you and save me, that I may again and again testify my gratitude for all your loving kindness. Your affectionate brother, R. Walton.
R. Walden?
Walton.
Walton. Okay.
Walton.
Okay, so, wow.
Wow.
He's like, peace out. I might not ever see you again. Or if I do, it may be a long ass time. That's basically what he's saying.
Right. If he's successful, it's going to be probably a long time. If he's not successful, he'll either be right back or he won't be back at all.
Yeah, and can I just say that, I mean, if you're just like trekking to the North Pole from somewhere in Russia, and I mean, that's not just something that you can be like, I don't want to do this anymore. Because, I mean, if you go in for a year, you got a year out of there.
Yeah.
Right?
No quitting.
I mean, surely it wouldn't take that long, but.
No quitting.
I mean, it's like, I don't know, man.
It's not like us. It's
you
not
can't
like
just like call somebody and be like, can you come pick me up?
Or hop on a plane. Like, yeah, I didn't really make it. I'm going to fly myself back out of here.
No, you're stuck, man.
Yep.
And I mean, I don't know what the North Pole looked like in the 1700s, but it was probably worse than it is now. I mean, I don't want to get too political, but I feel like some things have melted since then. So it was probably more terrible.
I would assume so.
I can't stand it.
Well, I don't think, I mean, isn't he saying that nobody's really succeeded? That's what the appeal to him is?
I guess. That seems like really bleak to me.
All right, are you ready for letter 2?
Letter 2.
Okay. Letter 2 to Mrs. Seville, England. Archangel, March the 28th, 17 whatever. I heard somebody else reading this, and that's a town, and they say Archangel, not Archangel. So
Archangel. Mm-hmm. Okay.
They say that for the name of the town. So you guys will correct us in the comments if that's bothering you or you don't like it. How slowly the time passes here. Okay, so he's writing to his sister again, right?
Oh, is it the same person?
It's to Mrs. Seville.
Is that what it was at the beginning?
I think so. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
How formal. Hey, sis.
How slowly the time passes here, encompassed as I am by frost and snow, yet a second step is taken towards my enterprise. I have hired a vessel and am occupied in collecting my sailors. Those whom I have already engaged appear to be men on whom I can depend and are certainly possessed of dauntless courage.
Oh, good.
It's a good thing. But I have one want, which I have never yet been able to satisfy, and the absence of the object of which I now feel as I most severe evil. I have no friend, Margaret. When I am glowing with the enthusiasm of success, there will be none to participate in my joy. If I am assailed by disappointment, no one will endeavor to sustain me in dejection. I shall commit my thoughts to paper, it is true, but that's a poor medium for the communication of feeling. I desire the company of a man who could sympathize with me, whose eyes would reply to mine. You may deem me romantic, my dear sister, but I bitterly feel the want of a friend. I have no one near me, gentle yet courageous, possessed of a cultivated as well as of a capricious mind, whose tastes are like my own, to approve or amend my plans. How would such a friend repair the faults of your poor brother? I am too ardent in execution and too impatient of difficulties. But it is a still greater evil to me that I am self-educated. For the first 14 years of my life, I ran wild on a common and read nothing but our Uncle Thomas's books of voyages. At that age, I became acquainted with the celebrated poets of our own country, but it was only when it had ceased to be in my power to derive its most important benefits from such a conviction that I perceived the necessity of becoming acquainted with more languages than that of my native country. Now I'm 28, and I am in reality more illiterate than many schoolboys of 15. It is true that I've thought more, and that my daydreams are more extended and magnificent, but they want, as the painters call it, keeping. And I greatly need a friend who would have sense enough not to despise me as romantic, and affection enough for me to endeavor to regulate my mind.
So he's a sensitive soul.
Very.
He needs a buddy.
Very much so.
A pal.
And like he said, it's in want, meaning like in need of, in want of, as the painters call it, keeping. So he needs someone to keep his thoughts and his emotions, and somebody to share them with.
Yeah
That's
something else.
He's really unhappy. I think he's really lonesome here.
He needs a partner. That's what he wants.
Okay, this is probably what Margaret's thinking too. Like, I told you, not to go. I mean, well, these are useless complaints. I shall certainly find no friend on the wide ocean, not even here in Archangel, which among merchants and seamen. Yet some feelings, unallied to the dross of human nature, beat even in these rugged bosoms. My lieutenant, for instance...
Don't say rugged bosoms.
My lieutenant, for instance, is a man of wonderful courage and enterprise. He is madly desirous of glory, or rather, to word my phrase more characteristically, of advancement in his profession. He is an Englishman, and in the midst of national and professional prejudices, unsoftened by cultivation, retains some of the noblest endowments of humanity.
This dude, he's okay. So first
He's
of all,
he's trying to compliment this guy.
He is, but he's a very sensitive soul. He's very self-conscious because he feels like he's not as educated as he should be.
Right.
And he has no friends. What's he doing out there?
I can't imagine taking off and doing some heroic or adventurous thing like that and not having anybody to share it with. What would motivate you to keep doing it?
Dude.
That's probably what he's asking himself, right? I first became acquainted with him on board a whale vessel, finding that he was unemployed in this city, and I easily engaged him to assist in my enterprise. This is still this same guy. I think he's like saying his lieutenant is like not really his friend, though. Mm. The master is a person of an excellent disposition and is remarkable in the ship for his gentleness and the mildness of his discipline. This circumstance, added to his well-known integrity and dauntless courage, made me very desirous to engage him. So he's glad he's hired him, but now I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop here. Mm-hmm. A youth passed in solitude, my best years spent under your gentle and feminine fosterage, has so refined the groundwork of my character that I cannot overcome an intense distaste to the usual brutality exercised on board ship. I have never believed it to be necessary, and when I heard of a mariner equally noted for his kindness of heart and the respect and obedience paid to him by his crew, I felt myself peculiarly fortunate in being able to secure his services. I heard of him first in rather a romantic manner from a lady who owes to him the happiness of her life. This briefly is his story.
Dang.
I mean, he's still talking about this lieutenant.
I mean, does he have a thing for him? I guess it's the 1700s. We're not supposed to think this way.
Probably not.
But, I mean, I feel like he's got a crush on this guy. What year was this book written?
I think written maybe in the early 1800s, like early like 18. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not.
I'll look it up for next time.
Maybe not. Okay.
But early 1800s.
Okay.
Let's see. Well, it's not like dudes didn't have crushes on other dudes in the 1800s.
I understand that.
But they wouldn't. But Mary Shelley probably wouldn't have put it in a book. It would probably have been too scandalous.
Probably. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. This briefly is his story. Okay. Some years ago, he loved a young Russian lady of moderate fortune, and having amassed a considerable sum in prize money, the father of the girl consented to the match. He saw his mistress once before the destined ceremony, but she was bathed in tears and, throwing herself at his feet, entreated him to spare her, confessing at the time that she loved another, but that he was poor and that her father would never consent to the union. My generous friend reassured the suppliant, and on being informed of the name of her lover, instantly abandoned his pursuit. He had already bought a farm with his money, on which he had designed to pass the remainder of his life, but he bestowed the whole on his rival, together with the remains of his prize money to purchase stock, and then himself solicited the young woman's father to consent to her marriage with her lover. But the old man decidedly refused, thinking himself bound in honor to my friend, who, when he found the father inexorable, quitted his country, nor returned until he heard that his former mistress was married according to her inclinations. What a noble fellow, you will exclaim. He is so, but then he is wholly uneducated. He is as silent as a Turk, and kind of ignorant carelessness attends him, which, while it renders his conduct the more astonishing, detracts from the interest and sympathy which otherwise he would command.
Wow.
Well, that's tacky.
That is tacky.
He told this big story. That guy's a hero.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then he's ignorant. He's not very smart.
Now
though.
he's called, and now he's just said, well, he's just not smart enough for me.
He's cool, but
Yet do not suppose, because I complain a little, or because I can conceive a consolation for my toils, which I may never know, that I am wavering in my resolutions. Those are as fixed as fate, and my voyage is only now delayed until the weather shall permit my embarkation. The winter has been dreadfully severe, but the spring promises well, and it is considered as a remarkably early season, so that perhaps I may sail sooner than I expected. I shall do nothing rashly. You know me sufficiently to confide in my prudence and considerateness whenever the safety of others is committed to my care. I cannot describe to you my sensations on the near prospect of my undertaking. It's impossible to communicate to you a conception of the trembling sensation, half pleasurable and half fearful, with which I am preparing to depart. I'm going to an unexplored regions, to the land of mist and snow, but I shall kill no albatross. Therefore, do not be alarmed for my safety, for I should come back to you as worn and woeful as the ancient mariner. You will smile at my illusion, but I will disclose a secret. I have often attributed my attachment to my passion, enthusiasm for the dangerous mystery of ocean, to that production of the most imaginative of modern poets. There is something at work in my soul which I do not understand. I am practically industrious, painstaking, a workman to execute with perseverance and labor. But besides this, there is a love for the marvelous, a belief in the marvelous, intertwined in all my projects, which hurries me out of the common pathways of men, even to the wild sea and unvisited regions I'm about to explore.
Good grief.
Very poetic.
Yeah. Wow.
Maybe he should have stayed in his writing.
Maybe.
But to return to dearer considerations, shall I meet you again after having traversed immense seas and returned by the most southern cape of Africa or America? I dare not expect such success, yet I cannot bear to look on the reverse of the picture. Continue for the present to write to me by every opportunity. I may receive your letters on some occasions when I need them most to support my spirits. I love you very tenderly. Remember me with affection should you never hear from me again.
Gosh.
Your affectionate brother, Robert Walton.
That is so bleak. Remember me affectionately should we never see each other again.
But I mean, it's got a point.
I hear ya.
I mean, it's very nice that he would have this, that she might have this letter.
Oh, yeah. It's very nice. I agree.
I mean, he's pretty dramatic guy.
Yeah.
But I think this is a dramatic circumstance. He's going to try to go to the North Pole, which nobody's ever done in the 1700s, and then get all the way back home. It's probably not likely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to try to take over, but this is all written so eloquently that I'm probably going to struggle.
Well, you will be pleased to know that the sentences are not nearly as long as the other book that we tried to read.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nikki, how long have we been going? Does it say?
31 minutes.
Oh, that's not too bad. All right, here we go. Letter 3. To Mrs. Seville, England, July 7th, 17 something. My dear sister, I write a few lines in haste to say that I am safe and well advanced on my voyage. This letter will reach England by a merchantman now on its homeward voyage from Archangel. More fortunate than I, who may not see my native land perhaps for many years. I am, however, in good spirits. My men are bold and apparently firm of purpose.
I hope he's found a friend.
I hope so too. Nor do the floating sheets of ice that continually pass us, indicating the dangers of the region toward which we are advancing, appear to dismay them. We have already reached a very high latitude, but it is the height of summer, and although not so warm as in England, the southern gales, which blow us speedily towards those shores which I so ardently desire to attain, breathe a degree of renovating warmth which I had not expected.
Nice.
Well, that's not too bad.
That's a nice surprise.
Makes it sound pretty nice. No incidents have hitherto befallen us.
Oh God, knock on wood.
Yeah, don't say that.
Say that.
Don't. That's terrible. No incidents have hitherto befallen us that would make a figure in a letter. 1 or 2 stiff gales and the springing of a leak are accidents which experienced navigators scarcely remember to record, and I shall be well content if nothing worse happen to us during our voyage. Adieu, my dear Margaret. Be assured that for my own sake, as well as yours, that I will not rashly encounter danger. I will be cool, persevering, and prudent.
All right.
Okay.
Well, he keeps telling us that.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to assure her that it's going to be okay.
Yeah. He's in pretty good spirits here with this letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I bet he's found a friend of some sort.
Oh, maybe. Maybe we're about to hear more about that. But success shall crown my endeavors. Wherefore not? Wherefore not? Thus far I have gone, tracing a secure way over the pathless seas, the very stars themselves being witnesses and testimonies of my triumph. Why not still proceed over the untamed yet obedient element? What can stop the determined heart and resolved will of man? My swelling heart involuntarily pours itself out thus.
Oh, my swelling heart.
But I must finish. Heaven blessed my beloved sister, R.W.
Oh, R.W. That's a different
That was a
signature.
short one. That was short and sweet.
He was in a good mood that day.
He was.
Mm-hmm.
All right, letter 4. To Mrs. Seville, England, August 5th, 17 something.
So, a month later?
I think so. Let's see. Yeah. So strange an accident has happened to us that I cannot forbear recording it, although it is very probable that you will see me before these papers can come into your possession.
Really?
Oh, something's happened. Something's gone down. Last Monday, July 31st, we were nearly surrounded by ice, which closed the ships on all sides, scarcely leaving her the sea room in which she floated.
Yikes.
Our situation was somewhat dangerous, especially as we were compassed round by a very thick fog. We accordingly lay to, hoping that some change would take place in the atmosphere and weather. About 2 o'clock the mist cleared away, and we beheld, stretched out in every direction, vast and irregular plains of ice, which seemed to have no end. Some of my comrades groaned, and in my own mind began to grow watchful with anxious thoughts, when a strange sight suddenly attracted our attention and diverted our solicitude and diverted our solicitude from our own situations. They saw something. What do you think it is?
I don't know, but how can you be surrounded by ice?
I don't know. I guess they went through and it like froze around
Can you be
them.
that? I mean, is it freezing up that fast?
I don't know.
They're not happy about it though.
We perceived a low carriage fixed on a sledge and drawn by dogs.
Oh.
Pass on toward the north. At the distance of 1/2 mile, a being which had the shape of a man, but apparently of gigantic stature, sat in the sledge and guided the dogs. We watched the rapid progress of the traveler with our telescopes until he was almost among the distant inequalities of the ice.
Giant stature.
Yeah. This appearance excited our unqualified wonder. We were, as we believed, many hundred miles away from any land, but this apparition seemed to denote that it was not in reality so distant as we had supposed. Shut in, however, by ice, it was impossible to follow his track. We had observed with the greatest attention. About 2 hours after this occurrence, we heard the ground sea, and before night the ice broke and freed our ship.
Nice.
We, however, lay to until the morning, fearing to encounter in the dark those large loose masses which float about after the breaking up of the ice. I profited of this time to rest for a few hours.
So he was gone?
Yeah, I guess so.
The
dude's gone, and so it's night, and the ice is broken. So, I mean, how scary. It's night now, and you've got this dude of big stature just doing around out in the ice. And I mean, he's well equipped. He's got these dogs and a sled, and he knows what's happening.
Yeah.
And you're just stuck on this ship with this like ice floaties all around.
I guess he didn't come at the ship.
No.
Okay.
I think he's just gone.
Do I need to read? Are you at the end of the letter again?
No.
Oh.
Am I not doing good enough for you?
You're doing great. Carry on, my dear. Oh, my swelling heart.
Oh, my swelling heart. In the morning, however, as soon as it was light, I went upon the deck and found all the sailors busy on one side of the vessel, apparently talking to someone on the sea. Who was it?
Someone in the water?
Yeah. It was, in fact, a sledge, like the one we had seen before, which had drifted toward us in the night on a large fragment of ice. Yikes. Only one dog remained alive, but there was a human being with it, whom the sailors were persuading to enter the vessel.
Oh. Was
God.
it the giant stature guy?
I don't know. He was not as the other travelers seemed to be.
Okay.
A savage inhabitant of some undiscovered island, but a European. When I appeared on deck, the master said, "Here's our captain, and he will not allow you to perish in the open sea." On perceiving me, the stranger addressed me in English, although with a foreign accent. "Before I come on board your vessel," he said, "will you have the kindness to inform me whither you are bound?" You may conceive my astonishment on hearing such a question addressed from me from a man on the brink of destruction.
Yes. Like, is he not going to get on the ship? He's out in the middle of nowhere. Like, if he's not going the right way, is he not getting on?
Right. And to whom I should have supposed that my vessel would have been a resource which he would have not exchanged for his most precious wealth than the earth can afford.
Right.
I replied, however, that we were on a voyage of discovery toward the northern pole. Upon hearing this, he appeared satisfied and consented to come on board. Oh,
Great.
He's like, okay, that's fine.
Well, that's good.
Good God, Margaret, if you had seen the man who thus capulated for his safety, your surprise would have been boundless. His limbs were nearly frozen, and his body dreadfully emaciated by fatigue and suffering. I never saw a man in such wretched a condition.
Oh, no.
We attempted to carry him into the cabin. I mean, he's in this wretched condition, and he has the audacity to be like, "But wait, where are you going?
Wait, where are you going?"
I mean, maybe I'll come on here, but what's happening?
I mean, I guess, who knows?
We attempted to carry him into the cabin, but as soon as he had quitted the fresh air, he fainted.
Oh.
We accordingly
Oh, no, that's not good.
Yeah. We accordingly brought him back to the deck. Poor, what's her name? What's the sister's
Margaret.
name? Margaret. She's
Margaret
reading all
Seville.
this, and she's like, what the heck, man?
What's happening?
We attempted to carry him into the cabin, but as soon as he had quitted the fresh air, he fainted. We accordingly brought him back to the deck and restored him to animation by rubbing him with brandy and forcing him to swallow a small quantity. As soon as he showed signs of life, we wrapped him in blankets and placed him near the chimney of the kitchen stove. By slow degrees, he recovered and ate a little soup, which restored him wonderfully. Well, that's good.
Yeah. So
Nothing a little brandy won't fix.
They rubbed him down with brandy.
Yeah, I guess.
I think it's
That's what it
interesting.
says.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's probably one of the metaphors of like, you know how you have to, like, if a child isn't breathing when it's born, you have to slap it and make sure it starts breathing and you know, get it all, get everything moving and running, and so she's, you know, poor Mary Shelley has lost the baby before, and she probably imagines that, you know, bringing it back to life or whatever.
2 days passed in this manner before he was able to speak, and I often feared that his sufferings had deprived him of understanding. When he had in some measure recovered, I removed him to my own cabin and attended on him as much as my duty would permit. I never saw a more interesting creature. His eyes have generally an expression of wildness and even madness, but there are moments when, if anyone performs an act of kindness toward him or does him any the most trifling service, his whole countenance is lightened up, as if it were with a beam of benevolence and sweetness that I never saw equaled.
In other words, he looked like he'd been through something.
Yeah. But he was like...
It's like got a wildness in his eyes.
But, I mean, he's real happy, you know, when you do him a favor. He's real happy about that. I lost my place.
Oh, it's okay.
But he is generally melancholy and despairing, and sometimes he gnashes his teeth, as if impatient of the weight of woes that oppress him. When my guest was a little recovered, I had great trouble to keep off the men who wished to ask him 1,000 questions, but I would not allow him to be tormented by their idle curiosity in a state of body and mind whose restoration evidently depended upon entire repose.
Yeah, they're like, man, what's happened to you? Like, they're bored. They need this story.
It's like, what have you seen out there, man? Once, however, the lieutenant asked why he had come so far upon the ice in so strange a vehicle. His countenance instantly assumed an aspect of the deepest gloom, and he replied, "To seek one who fled from me." He's after somebody. Mm-hmm. "And did the man whom you pursued travel in the same fashion?" "Yes." "Then I fancy we have seen them. For the day before we picked you up, we saw some dogs drawing a sledge with a man in it across the ice." This aroused the stranger's attention.
I bet.
And he asked a multitude of questions concerning the route which the demon,
Demon.
I don't know that word with an A.
Yeah, it's just like an old English spelling of it.
Okay. And he asked a multitude of questions concerning the route which the demon, as he called him, had pursued. Soon after, when he was alone with me, he said, "I have doubtless excited your curiosity as well as that of these good people, but you are too considerate to make inquiries. Certainly, it would indeed be very impertinent and inhuman in me to trouble you with any I cannot say that word of mine. Basically, inquisitiveness.
Oh, inquisitiveness?
Inquisitiveness. Thank you, Laura. And yet,
speaking of inquisitiveness, Boo just paid us a visit. He likes it when we read.
And yet you rescued me from such a strange and perilous situation. You have benevolently restored me to life. Soon after this, he inquired if I thought that the breaking up of ice had destroyed the other sledge. I replied that I could not answer with any degree of certainty, for the ice had not broken until nearly midnight, and the traveler might have arrived at a place of safety before that time. But of this I could not judge. From this time a new spirit of life animated the decaying frame of the stranger. He manifested the greatest eagerness to be upon the deck, to watch for the sledge which had before appeared. But I have persuaded him to remain in the cabin, for he is far too weak to sustain the rawness of the atmosphere. I have promised that someone should watch for him, and give him instant notice if a new object should appear in sight. Such is my journal of what relates to this strange occurrence up to the present day. The stranger has gradually improved in health, but is very silent and appears uneasy when anyone except myself enters the cabin. Yet his manners are so I can't read this. And gentle, conciliatory and gentle, that the sailors are all interested in him, although they have had very little communication with him. For my own part, I begin to love him as a brother, and his constant and deep grief fills me with sympathy and compassion. He must have been a noble creature in his better days, being even now in wreck so attractive and amiable.
So he's found his friend.
He started out this journey. He's like, I need a friend. He's got it.
Yep. He's found a friend.
Yeah.
And little does he know it's Dr. Frankenstein that he's found.
So attractive.
And they're after the monster.
Spoiler alert. That's a big spoiler alert.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe it's not him. How do I know?
How do I know?
I'm just assuming that we're meeting the characters of the book.
Oh, Laura. I said in one of my letters, my dear Margaret, that I should find no friend on the wide ocean, yet I have found a man who is, before his spirit had been broken by misery, I should have been happy to have possessed as a brother of my heart.
Ha!
I shall continue,
my swelling heart.
I shall continue my journal concerning the stranger at intervals, should I have any fresh incidents to record. So
nice.
here's an interval for you to begin.
Okay. All right. Well, I can't wait to see what happens. Okay. August the 13th. My affection for my guest increases every day.
Oh.
He excites at once my admiration and my pity to an astonishing degree. How can I see so noble a creature destroyed by misery without feeling the most poignant grief? He is so gentle, yet so wise. His mind is so cultivated. And when he speaks, although his words are culled with the choicest art, yet they flow with rapidity and unparalleled eloquence. My goodness.
My goodness.
He's pretty eloquent.
Yeah.
Right? So this guy must be great.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
He's now much recovered from his illness and is continually on the deck, apparently watching for the sledge that preceded his own. Yet, although unhappy, he is not so utterly occupied by his own misery, but that he interests himself deeply in the projects of others. He has frequently conversed with me on mine, which I have communicated to him without disguise. He entered attentively into all my arguments in favor of my eventual success, and into every minute detail of the measures I had taken to secure it. I was easily led by the sympathy which he evinced, to use the language of my heart, to give utterance to the burning ardor of my soul.
Wow.
And to say with all the fervor that warmed me how gladly I would sacrifice my fortune, my existence, my every hope, to the furtherance of my enterprise. One man's life or death were but a small price to pay for the acquirement of the knowledge which I sought for the dominion I should acquire and transmit over the elemental foes of our race. As I spoke, a dark gloom spread over my listener's countenance. At first, I perceived that he tried to suppress his emotions. He placed his hands before his eyes, and my voice quivered and failed me as I beheld tears trickle fast from between his fingers.
Oh, no.
A groan burst from his heaving breast. I paused.
Oh, no.
At length he spoke in broken accents. Unhappy man, do you share my madness? Have you drunk also of the intoxicating draught? Hear me, let me reveal my tale, and you will dash the cup from your lips.
Oh, no.
So he's trying to warn him. Such words you may imagine strongly excited my curiosity.
I bet.
But the paroxysm of grief that had seized the stranger overcame his weakened powers, and many hours of repose and tranquil conversation were necessary to restore his composure. He lost it.
Yeah, he lost it.
Having conquered the violence of his feelings, he appeared to despise himself for being the slave of passion, and quelling the dark tyranny of despair, he led me again to converse concerning myself personally. He asked me the history of my earlier years. The tale was quickly told, but it awakened various trains of reflection. I spoke of my desire of finding a friend, of my thirst for a more intimate sympathy with a fellow mind than had ever fallen to my lot, and expressed my conviction that a man could boast of little happiness who did not enjoy this blessing. I agree with you, replied the stranger. We are unfashioned creatures, but half made up. If one wiser, better, dearer than ourselves, such a friend ought to be. Do not lend his aid to perfectionate our weak and faulty natures. I once had a friend, the most noble of human creatures, and am entitled, therefore, to judge respecting friendship. You have hope and the world before you, and have no cause for despair. But I have lost everything and cannot begin life anew.
Oh.
As he said this, his countenance became expressive of a calm, settled grief
that
touched me to the heart. But he was silent and presently retired to his cabin. Even broken in spirit as he is, no one can feel more deeply than he does the beauties of nature. The starry sky, the sea, and every sight afforded by these wonderful regions seems still to have the power of elevating his soul from earth. Such a man has a double existence. He may suffer misery and be overwhelmed by disappointments, yet when he has retired into himself, he will, like a celestial spirit that has a halo around him, within whose circle no grief or folly ventures. Will you smile at the enthusiasm I express concerning this divine wanderer? You would not if you saw him. You may have been you have been tutored and refined by books and retirement from the world, and you are therefore somewhat fastidious, but this only renders you the more fit to appreciate the extraordinary merits of this wonderful man. Sometimes I have endeavored to discover that quality it is which he possesses that elevates him so immeasurably above any other person I ever knew.
Gosh, he is infatuated.
I believe it to be an intuitive discernment, a quick but never failing power of judgment, a penetration into the causes of things, unequaled for clearness and precision. Add to this a facility of expression and a voice whose varied intonations are soul-subduing music.
He's just like in love. He is so smitten.
Man.
Wow.
He really is. So a few days later, August the 19th.
Okay.
Yesterday, the stranger said to me, you may easily perceive Captain...
Wait, time out. Are they still stuck on this ice block? Are they just still hanging out?
I think they're going along.
Okay, they're doing a round.
Yeah, I think they're moving along.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yesterday, the stranger said to me, you may easily perceive, Captain Walton, that I have suffered great and unparalleled misfortunes. I had determined at one time that the memory of these evils should die with me, but you have won me to alter my determination. You seek for knowledge and wisdom as I once did, and I ardently hope that the gratification of your wishes may not be a serpent to sting you, as mine has been. I do not know that the relation of my disasters will be useful to you, yet when I reflect that you are pursuing the same course, exposing yourself to the same dangers which have rendered me what I am, I imagine that you may deduce an apt moral from my tale, one that may direct you if you succeed in your undertaking and console you in case of failure. So he's saying that his story could be valuable to Mr. Walton. Mm-hmm. So he's about to tell him what's happened.
Okay.
What he's been through. Prepare to hear of occurrences which are usually deemed marvelous, Were we among the tamer scenes of nature, I might fear to encounter your unbelief, perhaps your ridicule. But many things will appear possible in these wild and mysterious regions, which would provoke the laughter of those unacquainted with ever varied powers of nature. Nor can I doubt but that my tale conveys in its series internal evidence of the truth of the events of which it is composed. You may easily imagine that I was much gratified by the offered communication, yet I could not endure that he should renew his grief by a recital of his misfortunes. I felt the greatest eagerness to hear the promised narrative, partly from curiosity and partly from a strong desire to ameliorate his fate as if it were in my power. I expressed these feelings in my answer. I thank you, he replied, for your sympathy, but it is useless. My fate is nearly fulfilled. I wait but for one event, and then I shall repose in peace. I understand your feeling, continued he, perceiving that I wished to interrupt him. But you are mistaken, my friend, if thus you will allow me to name you. Nothing can alter my destiny. Listen to my history, and you will perceive how irrevocably it is determined. So Miss Captain Walton said, man, don't go reliving it. You're going to drive yourself crazy again.
Right.
You've just recovered from whatever crap you've been through.
Right.
But the friend here is insisting.
He probably wants to get it off his chest.
Probably so. He then told me that he would commence his narrative the next day when I should be at leisure. This promise drew from me the warmest thanks. I have resolved every night, when I'm not imperatively occupied by my duties, to record as nearly as possible, in his own words, what he has related during the day. If I should be engaged, I will at least make notes. This manuscript will doubtless afford you the greatest pleasure, but to me, who know him and who hear it from his own lips, with what interest and sympathy shall I read it in some future day? Even now, as I commence my task, his full-toned voice swells in my ears. His lustrous eyes dwell on me with all their melancholy sweetness. I see his thin hand raised in animation, while the lineaments of his face are irradiated by the soul within. Strange and harrowing must be his story. Frightful the storm which embraced the gallant vessel on its course and wrecked it thus.
Wow. Was that the end of the letters?
That was the end of the letter.
Okay, so then the chapter 1 is going to take off with his story.
Right. So yeah.
Margaret is on the edge of her seat.
Yeah, right? I mean, that took several pages of a letter to tell her that he was about to tell her a story.
Yeah. And first of all, he started this letter, I think, with saying, you might even see me before you get this.
Yeah.
So it's not like he has a letterbox on his boat.
Right. But I mean, you got to write it all down or he'll forget it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just can't even. First of all, he's in love with this dude, right?
It's just that romantic language. I mean, it's just overwhelming.
That's like saying they were such good friends. They were roommates.
They were roommates.
You know. Nobody's ever together back then.
He's very infatuated.
How long have we been going?
1 hour.
We're at an hour. So I think we're going to have to cut it.
Oh, come on. We're not even going to get to start the story?
I think we're going to have to cut it. We're just going to have to come back next week.
Okay. All right, folks. I don't know. I mean, chapter 1's pretty short.
No, let's make them wait.
Okay. Maybe we'll do 1 and 2 together.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay.
That'll be fun. Okay, well, that was Tales from the Put-Out Closet. That was Frankenstein. Kind of like the beginning, right? What do you call it at the beginning? It's not a preamble. It's a... Preface. Yes. So that was the letters at the beginning.
Yeah, it's a story within a story. Now, how does an 18-year-old figure out... I mean, why wouldn't you just go in and start telling the story? How is she brilliant enough to...
She was brilliant.
Frame it in this... other story.
That's who she was.
Also education.
Yeah. Okay.
Which we're lacking these days.
All right. So we're going to break and come back next week for chapters 1 and 2. We're excited.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you are listening somewhere out there in podcast land, we're really happy that you have listened with us today, we would love for you to come over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel, Fatbird Finds. If you are listening and watching on YouTube, leave us a comment below. Let us know what you think so far. Let us know, if you've read this before. Let us know whatever you want. You can leave whatever comment you want.
Correct our pronunciation.
Correct, absolutely.
Or, put your own spin on whatever's happening.
All right, guys, make sure you like this video. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And as always, make sure you stay tuned to see what Fatbird finds next. And we will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.